Today, I'm exploring an abandoned automotive plant. The trip started off like usual, a long walk to the location, followed by a quick search for a way in. Immediately, I was hit with a feeling that I wasn't alone. The thing about scrappers is, they're only in it for the money. They're also risking a lot more than just a trespassing charge if they get caught. So when they run into an explorer, their first thoughts are, is this guy gonna rat me out? And how much is that camera worth? So like any sensible human being, I immediately turned around and made sure that I had a clear exit. Now, it was time to play the waiting game. Fortunately, I didn't have to wait long, as I heard the scrappers start up their truck and drive off. I now had the whole place all to myself. Now, if you've ever wondered how much you can get for those old baseball cards you got laying around in your basement, here's your answer. These cases of hockey cards were once the property of a man who saw them as an investment opportunity. Unfortunately, he got dementia in his later years, and his family did not honor the cards until after the factory had already been abandoned. I decided it was time to move on from staring at piles of paper and see what the rest of the factory had to offer. While at first I didn't find much of interest, I eventually stumbled upon an office area. After a while, I happened upon what appeared to be the main locker room of the facility. Still unsure if I was truly alone, I wanted to tread lightly, or at least as lightly as one can in a room full of crunchy ceiling tiles. My goal was to take the scenic route to the far side of the factory, where I could finally capture the sheer magnitude of this building. The number of lockers in this room alone should give you an idea of the manpower needed to run this place. The goal was now in sight, but first I had to know what lies beyond these doors. And I found a fully decked out cafeteria featuring a wooden freezer, plenty of seating, and additional office space shoved into the middle of it all. Despite all the asbestos scattered about, I could picture a room full of life and happiness, a place where coworkers would come together and bond over food and small talk. You just have to look beyond the exposed wires and cabling and imagine what this place used to be. Or maybe I was just hungry during this shoot. Alright, it was time to get back to business. The lighting was as good as it was gonna get, and I had some pictures to take. Now that all that fun and waiting for puddles to calm down was over, I knew that the next stretch of the adventure might pale in comparison. However, I was pleasantly surprised to see that the scrappers were generous enough to leave me a small gallery of machines to admire. It wasn't much, but sometimes you gotta enjoy these small victories. I then stumbled upon what was perhaps the greatest lighting in the entire building. Let's take a moment to appreciate it. Well, that was nice. Now it was time to start making my way back to the first floor. I found that there's a direct correlation between how long I've been in an abandonment and my level of comfort. So now that it's going on 2 hours, I know that there's no way any scrappers are going to suddenly drive up. But actually, I always need to be aware of this bias during explores, because it's when you let your guard down they'll end up falling down a hole, or walking into the wrong situation. And I suppose I should probably show off some of the cool things I skipped over in that last segment. Here's a goofy ping pong table, some books, and a timesheet from Christmas. Now back to the story. I quickly made my way back through the main room, careful to avoid any potential false flooring. The only section of the ground floor that I had yet to explore was directly below the office area. Much like the rest of this factory, it was largely gutted. This must be where the scrappers' kids get to play while their parents are at work. I decided to check out the basement, knowing full well that it was likely flooded. However, I was quite surprised to learn that this was not the case. Upon reaching the basement floor, I discovered the most intact room I had seen in the entire factory. The walls were covered with various types and sizes of mechanical belts, many of which were still sorted into their appropriate groups. Directly adjacent to this storage area was a rather eerie boiler room. The drainage system may have been able to keep the floors mostly dry, but all that trapped water produced a considerable amount of humidity. After making sure I didn't miss any other interesting rooms, I ventured onward into a dark corridor, which ended abruptly, leaving me with a small electronics room and a stairwell. Fueled by the thrill of my recent discoveries, it was time to reach a new kind of high. While making my way down from the roof, I checked out each of the upper floors of the factory. Let me summarize that for you. Although I did find a decently sized elevator room, on my way out, I made a quick stop at the bottom of this cool shaft. I also wanted to get some more exterior shots of the factory. On second thought, I think I'll call it a day.